So my name is Ty. I'm the chef and co-owner of Restaurant Olivia in Wash Park. Today we are going to be focusing on venison. We'll be making a venison ragu using the shank. We will start by seasoning. My kind of like go-to seasoning mix is a mixture of celery salt, black pepper, and salt. And we'll go pretty heavy on all of it. A lot of it's going to fall off, and then the stuff that does fall off during the searing is going to season the braise itself. I love the flavor of celery salt. We'll use it in just about every single meat dish, meat braise, even if it's just like searing something. Celery salt goes in just about everything that we do. For the searing, we want to get a nice golden brown fond on this shank and then on the inside the pot as well. So I turned the pot up a little bit before we started, so I made sure it was nice and hot. Added the oil in there, and then now the shank, we're just gonna kind of let it gently caramelize. I'll probably turn the heat back up a little bit. We're gonna let that go for a couple minutes on each side, get a nice caramelized golden brown color during that time.
Do you consider this having 2 sides or 4 sides?
I consider this one having 2 sides. Sometimes they come in and they definitely have 4 sides.
It just kind of depends on like the shape. If it's
It depends on the shape. This one's a little more, like kind of flat to where it's only 2 sides. But some of them that do come in, they're 4-sided. It takes a little bit longer. Luckily, when it's nice and hot, it sears pretty fast. This specific venison we have had on for almost a year now. It comes from Maui. Maui Nui is the company, and everything that we do, all of the products that we buy at Olivia, we want to buy from people that we like, but also good stewards of the earth. And we genuinely think that the people that are out hunting this venison are doing good for specifically Maui, but just in general, a vast majority of people. It is a wild-caught axis deer. It is an invasive species, and when we think of anything that's wild, there are very strict regulations on selling wild game, wild meat. Wild-caught meat has very specific regulations that are needed to be met by the FDA. In Maui, this venison is hunted overnight. It is hunted with FDA inspectors in the truck, and I feel like it's something we have to talk about because it's meat, right? It used to be alive, but they need to essentially kill the animal in one shot, and if they don't, the hunt is over. So it's a overnight process. They do it 7 nights a week. My business partners went out and actually did a hunt with the folks at Maui Nui Venison, and it was an experience, to say the least, from what they said. Everything is all nice and well seared on this shank. We got some nice color on it. So we pull that out. I turn the heat off because we're going to add in these vegetables. I don't want any splashback. I don't want any I don't want any flames in this kitchen, so I turn the flame off. We take the shank out just to give us a little more space to caramelize these vegetables. Once the sizzling stops, I'll turn the heat back on. Again, there's a little bit of oil splattering, and we don't want that to catch fire. The venison itself has been on for about a year, a little over a year, and we kind of switch it up as far as which cuts that we want to use. We use a lot of ground venison, a lot of the shanks, and then right now also strips. This venison specifically isn't too gamey either. So it's an axis deer. They're super small. But the diet itself out in Hawaii, they eat a lot of like macadamia nuts. They eat a lot of just that wild vegetation that grows there. And so their diet, I feel like, definitely has a big part in what the meat tastes like. It's funny that they eat macadamia nuts. They'll go into the macadamia farms and eat those. A few of the dishes that we've ever put with this have macadamia nuts included in it as well. So we just wanted to get a little color on these vegetables. The garlic, I didn't peel one by one. I kind of just cut it all in half. All of this gets strained out. So we're really just looking for the flavor. We're not gonna garnish or anything with the vegetables that are in here. So unpeeled garlic works just as fine. We'll add a little bit of tomato paste. Just give that a nice stir, turning it back up a little bit. Get a nice stir, and we'll want this tomato paste to be caramelized as well. Just give it a deeper, richer flavor.
And how can you tell if it's caramelized, especially in like a black pot like that?
Sure. So it'll start to coat the veggies, and you'll see dark brown, sometimes even black spots on it, and that's really what the tomato paste is doing. It's kind of coating all those vegetables and just giving them a deeper flavor. I love dark, rich things, and all of our braises are I try and get as dark and as rich as possible. And if that means just like toasting the tomato paste a little bit more, then that's what we'll do. So it's all starting to get nice and dark and caramelized, golden brown. The onions, since we added everything together, the onions are smaller and thinner. They're definitely going to get color first. So I'm watching what the onions are doing. The carrots, they'll get color last. So we're mostly watching the onions and kind of what they're doing. There's a little bit of leek in here as well, along with carrot and celery. So I think that's ready. Next thing is adding wine. So wine and then stock. Again, I'm gonna turn the heat off because we're adding alcohol to a hot pan. So I'll actually cover it. I'll turn it back on so we get it back up to a boil, and then we can take the lid off and let it start evaporating a little bit. Having the lid on just makes it come up to a boil faster. All of our braises at Olivia are very wine-based. So it's usually like about 50-50 wine to stock. And we can use any kind of alcohol, really. Sherry, Marsala, Madeira. We use it all. There are specific things where, like, if we're making brizzato, which is a braised piece of meat from Italy, Piedmont, we like to use Barolo. That's what they use. That's what we like to use, and then we'll make like a Barolo jus for the sauce itself. This braising recipe is pretty versatile as well. You can use it for venison, lamb, beef, pork, really whatever. This is kind of like our base braise, and then you can take this and add on. It's almost like a mother sauce braise that we do. You can hear it boiling, so I'm just gonna turn it down, take the lid off. So we're gonna wanna reduce this slightly. Otherwise, it's just a little too winey, almost a little too acidic. I like to kind of cook it down a little bit. And then this braising liquid is what we're going to turn into the sauce at the very end as well. So now that it's been reducing for a few minutes, we'll add all of our stock. What I like as well is, like, we can also reuse this braise. So we're making a lot more braising liquid than we need to, but if you had a braise that you wanted to do tomorrow, you can absolutely just reuse this stuff. We'll actually probably just add about half of this stock, so 2 cups. Yeah, it's great stock. Nice and viscous. And we'll do the same thing. I'll cover this up. We'll bring this back up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, add our herbs and our venison shank to it, and then we'll throw it all right into the oven. The stock lowered the temperature of it, so we don't want to add that cold braising liquid into the oven. It's just going to take that much longer to do, and this already takes a few hours. You could also do this overnight. What we do at the restaurant is we only have 2 ovens, so they're not very big. So when we're doing braises, we love to do them overnight at a super low temperature, like 250. Downside is the kitchen stays warm, and then you walk into a warm kitchen. Upside is if it's winter, you're walking into a really warm kitchen. Yeah, we need those ovens for everything. lady fingers and cheesecakes and gosh, everything. We'll add herbs, bay leaf, thyme, oregano, and basil. Those are the 4 main herbs that we use specifically for braising. And then right back in here this goes. Before we go in the oven, we'll make sure it's boiling. We're gonna turn the leftovers of this into ragu. I think 1 shank is more than enough. But yeah, you can, if you want to 3 or 4, again, you don't need to double or triple, quadruple the amount of braising liquid. It really is just dependent on the size of pot that you have.
And my last question is there a rule of thumb when you're braising something of like how much you like to have sticking out, or is that not?
Yes and no. If you have a little too much popping out, so like if it was only about halfway like that, I would halfway through go in and flip the shanks. It gets, when you cover something completely, it gets really expensive because it's just that much more wine.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a whole bottle of wine. You could probably do another half bottle of wine and drink the other half, I suppose. But that's just like, it's just that much more you need to buy. So we could essentially go in hour from now, flip this over, and then let it cook the last 2 hours, and we'll be fine. So right. I'm not worried about one side being raw while the other side is fully cooked. Not at all. Nice. So it's at 375, and we'll go for about 3 hours. Might take a smidgen tomato paste I needed. I have an extra pair of tweezers.